Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of We the People. I'm so happy to have Mr. Ajay Mittal with us today. He is Director for Climate Change Programs for India and South Asia with Earth Day Network. Ajay, thank you so much for joining us today. There are so many things that you do for the environment, for Kolkata and for India. It would be great if you could introduce yourself and tell our audience what all you do in the environment space.
So firstly, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. As Pooja said, that I am climate change programs for Earth Day Network. That's my professional role. As a director for climate change programs, my role involves working on the transition, making greater awareness for climate change, for people to live a low carbon lifestyles. But for the past few years, I've been also leading the Canopy project for Earth Day Network, where we have been working on large scale restoration projects. For example, a large project we did last year in the Sundarbans, which involved 160 hectares of mangrove restoration, planting more than 2 million mangroves. We are doing a lot of afforestation projects, agroforestry projects. So yeah, this is what my role involves. But at Earth Day, we also do a lot of mobilization for Earth Day. We do a lot of programs which can widen the awareness and grow the environmental movement.
So, Ajay, you mentioned Earth Day Network. So, if you could just tell us more about this organization, what is it exactly about? And Earth Day is a day that we celebrate, it's an event. So, how did that convert into an organization?
Yeah, so this is a 53rd year that we commemorated as Earth Day. It is an organization that started in 1970, way back when there was very little discussion around environment. And since then, it has grown to a movement. Now, over 2 billion people participate in Earth Day activities every year. We are present in more than 190 countries. So, yeah, Earth Day has become a very important day. It led to a lot of important legislations being passed, a lot of important laws being passed, a lot of activities, a lot of commitments come out of Earth Day. So yes, it's just a day, but at Earth Day we say that every day Earth Day. So we definitely follow that, and we believe that's very important right now in this times where climate change has become such an important issue. So yes, it's something I very proudly feel a part of it, and I think a lot of people are part of this environmental movement as Earth Day. So yes.
Yes, like you correctly mentioned, that we cannot be celebrating Earth Day on one particular day and be happy about it and think, okay, we've done our job. With the current situation, with the current state of the environment, it's very important that we imbibe this lifestyle in our day-to-day actions so that some form of change can come about. We can save the environment in some way. So, Ajay, I have personally been in the environment space since the past 4 years, and I know that you have also been here since the past 4, 5, 6 years. And I remember once we were having this conversation where you told me how you discovered this, your interest in the environment space very candidly, it was not planned at all. So, if you could just tell us more about that, when did you decide to make a career out of this and why?
So this is not a career, firstly, for me. I don't still something I don't plan to do. I never wanted to work in this sector, in the development sector itself, professionally. But I was doing my business, and I was working with a lot of city-based not-profits, mostly around health and public safety. That's something which I feel passionate about. I got an opportunity to attend a conference where Professor Al Gore was presenting, and that presentation really changed my mindset, and it showed me how climate change is such a big monster as an issue that is going to come to us, hit us. And I believe I understood in that presentation that how everything that we have achieved as humanity on so many parameters of social development can all be wiped out with one crisis. And that led me to an understanding that if someone has to create significant impact as a young person in this era, it has to be working on climate change. I think for the next 30, 40 years, 50 years that I live, there's nothing more meaningful to work on climate change than anything else you can do. Because if you work on climate change, you can address and arrest the crisis. You can prevent a lot of suffering from human are going to suffer because if you are able to mitigate and adapt to climate change. So that was no brainer. I thought that there could be nothing more meaningful than to work on climate change. And that's when in the conference itself, I decided that going back to my country, my city, because this conference was in Brisbane. I will work full time on climate change. That time I had no job, no understanding where it will come from. But that was June 2019, and September 2019 I joined Earth Day. So I was fortunate that I got an opportunity and a platform such big as Earth Day to do what I wanted to do. So yeah, this is not really a career as I look at it. But for people who are looking at this as career, I think this is a fantastic opportunity as well for any young person who is listening to this to see how they can build a career into climate change, because it is not about new green jobs also, but greening of existing jobs, as I call it, is going to be a very big market for any opportunity. So if you are working in any sector, if you have a sustainability mindset, a background, I believe you will be more employable.
Right. Also, Ajay, we have noticed that most of the organizations working in the environment space are more of the NGO kind, more of the not for profit kind. So, if a young person wants a job or wants to make a business out of it, let's say they want to be a green entrepreneur, how will you motivate them or convince them that no, this can also be a profit making sector? This can also be something that will just not be for a social cause, but it will benefit you financially and it will give you a stable career as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think uh, that was 20 years ago or 10 years ago. That environment was something which a few non-profits, a few people will feel passionate about. But I think over the years, especially in the last 5 to 7 years, I would say things have changed drastically. And one thing which I heard, which I retain, is that they say that sustainability is the new digital, and it is going to be moving very fast. It's always already happening in parts of the world, and it's going to hit India very, very soon. And you will see a lot of opportunities coming out in the sustainability field. Just imagine how much of media space sustainability has right now. How much consumer mindsets are shifting towards that. You can't ignore these facts. They are going to create a lot of jobs. Look at India's commitment as in terms of NDCs. They are so ambitious. There's so much this needs to be achieved, and if all of this needs to be achieved, there has to be a lot of jobs needs to be created. So there's no doubt of opportunities, in my opinion, in all these sectors, whether it is renewables sector, whether it is waste management, whether it is resource management, whether it is helping companies transform into following the new ESG framework, or anything that you can say about new green products, new green innovations, packaging. I can go on. Like there's so many opportunities I can think of. So definitely, I think this is a very hot sector to be in if you're even thinking as a good career.
Right. And with India having the presidency for G20 this year, and with the government launching the Mission Life program, we have been seeing, like you said, sustainability is taking so much media space. Like, I'll give you a very small example. In metro stations, this ad about Mission Life, this very catchy song has been going on day and night. And for the masses, if they are listening to this every single day, at least once it will strike them कि ये है क्या, ये किस चीज के बारे में है, इसके बारे में इतना क्यों बात किया जा रहा है, and that I think should be enough to spark some level of curiosity in them. So yes, the government is also doing a lot and the masses are also doing a lot. I would like to focus our discussion now on Kolkata as a city. You had told me that Kolkata is a very vulnerable hotspot for climate change. So what is it with Kolkata? Is it the geographical location? Is it the demographic? Why is it that Kolkata is a hotspot for climate change?
So I think there is something about Kolkata that I connect with, and I feel very connected to the city. And when I started my journey into the environment, it was through air pollution, and all started because I saw that when we talk about air pollution, we were only talking about Delhi, but we knew that Kolkata's air quality was even worse sometimes because it's such a dynamic data, but no one was talking about it. And that's when we started reporting some data, and we got to know how worse that data is. And we now see that Kolkata is one of the worst cities in terms of air pollution. And so that's one. But when I went deeper into understanding of climate change, we know that IPCC reports have pointed out that Kolkata, although not a coastal city, is so close to the coast. It is very vulnerable because of its high density due to sea level rise. We are so close to the Bay of Bengal, the Sundarbans. Sundarbans is known as the India's cyclone capital because of the intensity and the frequency of cyclones that we see in this region. And data says that the average temperature rise in India subcontinent, if you see the Bay of Bengal regions, the air above the Bay of Bengal is much hotter, at least 20% more hotter than what is on the Arabian Sea side. And that is more conducive for formation of more cyclones and of greater intensity and greater frequency. And we have seen that happening. Last few years, Amphan was such a destructive cyclone. And beyond that, there have been Phony and others which have been there. So that's second. Third, because of the city being unplanned city, there's so much construction, there is so much shrunk in open and green spaces. Like open and green spaces in Kolkata has shrunk by 30%, while some cities have actually increased their green cover. So because of that, what has happened is that there's something called urban heat island effect, and that is resulting in the city becoming warmer. This year, people have experienced summers like they are saying that they have never experienced before. And there's a meme that goes around which says that no, this is not the hottest summer, this is the coldest summer you are experiencing, right? And these are reality. This is not really a joke, right? This is reality. And because of that, Kolkata, on some parameters, some studies say that is the fastest warming city globally. On certain studies that was conducted among several cities. So it's the fastest warming city. It's risk of high sea level change. It is near to the cyclone capital. Its air quality is one of the worst. There is a water crisis that we are seeing, that Kolkata is not really, we have a lot of water availability, but it's not immune to the water crisis. If you go to Kolkata, parts of Kolkata still suffers from drinking water crisis in some parts. So it is not immune to that. Parts of Kolkata will be flooded as early as 2030, as per some data which is saying. And if we see right now in monsoons also, when there is a little bit of rain downpour, parts of Kolkata stay flooded for days. So these are huge concerns that the city has. It is a huge population. There is a lot of migration from Eastern India regions which are facing impacts of climate change. All of this will culminate into a social crisis, right? So I think that is a concern. Even health crisis because of air pollution, because of all the extreme weather events. So all of this make it very complex and put Kolkata as a very vulnerable city because of climate change.
Right. And we have been hearing this since childhood that Sundarbans as a location is supposed to be a protector for Bengal. It has so many mangrove trees that it is supposed to protect us. But we also know that in Amphan there was so much of destruction caused. How has the situation changed now? Is it still a protector, or is the loss of mangrove trees so massive that it is no longer giving us that location benefit?
No, definitely. I think it still acts as a shield. Mangroves acts as a shield when there are tropical cyclones. It protects the land area from the intensity of those cyclones. So definitely mangroves act as a shield. It also acts as a huge carbon sink because the carbon sequestering capacity of mangroves is much higher than even tropical rainforests. So that is there. It is definitely huge ecosystem services that mangroves and Sundarbans provide to not just the city but to the entire world. But yes, we have seen degradation of mangroves, and Sundarbans, parts of Sundarbans are so vulnerable. I often call it the thermometer of climate change, because I think if you need to really witness the impacts of climate change, you need to visit Sundarbans and see how it is getting real. So a few years ago, you would say climate change. Then the conversation changed as to climate has changed. Then it changed to climate crisis. And now I think it's more effective to say that climate change is accelerating, and it's accelerating faster than what scientists have earlier predicted. And this is very dangerous. And what's even worse is that the rate of deployment of solution is not at the same rate at which things are destroying, right? And the political will or the political ambition is lacking. Of course, governments are doing their job, but the way, the seriousness, the severity of climate crisis, I don't see that in the conversation. We don't see in our election conversations, and that's very important.
Okay, and I've also seen this climate clock that has been going around. It has been, I think, started by Energy Swaraj Foundation. So if you could throw some light on that, what is the purpose of that climate clock and what is it actually trying to convey to the masses?
I think it's a very scientific and mathematical calculation. So it says that suppose if we have to arrest the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, this is the amount of CO2 budget that we have available. And then there is a calculation of what is the kind of CO2 emissions that we are having, not just CO2, GHG emissions that we are having currently, and how much time it will take for us to reach that point where we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that calculation today says that we have roughly about 6 years left. In about a month's time or less than a month's time, we will actually, the clock will change and it will start showing 5 years something. And this has huge significance for this thing. If you look at data, what 1.5 degrees C and 2 degrees C actually means, it's very similar to how human body temperature between 99 degrees and 104 degrees, 100.4 degrees means fever. So Professor Solanki, who is the founder of Energy Swaraj, he always says that you can now say that the planet has got fever. And like when we have fever, we can't perform our normal actions in a day. The whole ecosystem or the whole balance of the earth is getting kind of disbalanced. And that's why we are seeing such heat waves, we are seeing such extreme weather events, flooding, and downpours that are happening. So this is very, very serious. It is going to affect a lot of people. What's ironical is that people who have least contributed this problem are at the front line of this crisis. They are facing huge, huge gaps. I remember my visits to Sundarbans, having conversation with people, and they don't have the luxury also to think about what will happen next few days. They can't even think of what will the sea. I asked them the question: do you see a changes in the levels of the sea? Does it threaten you more? And they say that we have lived all our life with the sea, and if it tomorrow consumes us, as they say that consumes us, it will. We don't have a choice. Where will we go? Because their immediate concern is where will the food come tomorrow, whether they will be able to protect their families from a tiger attack, all of those threats that they live with. We are still living in cities, we are still living a life which is more comfortable. We have certain adaptability to climate change, but these are people which actually makes me feel that there is a need for stronger action among people. So I think that is my concern, and that's what drives me. That's the pain that I would have chosen to work in this thing. Otherwise, I would have also chosen to do something more with my life rather than working on this.
Yeah. And the saddest part I feel is that the people who are facing the maximum brunt of the situation are the ones who haven't contributed to it at all. They don't even have a choice ki we have a choice ki theek hai, let me not switch on the AC because it's harming the environment. They don't even have that choice. They don't even have the luxury of a refrigerator or an air conditioner. And if worse comes to worse, they are the ones that will be thrown under the bus first, and we will always have some way of protecting or saving ourselves. So that is the sad reality, and which is why I think it's not important right now to say ki they are not doing anything or they need to be made aware, they need to be educated. It's the educated people who need to take action and who need to do something about it. And that brings me to the climate action plan. So in India, Mumbai and Chennai are the only cities which have a climate action plan now. So if you could just tell us what exactly is a climate action plan and why does Kolkata or any other city need a plan?
So earlier, Mumbai was the only city that we know in Asia which had a climate action plan. And I was hosting Dr. Anjal Prakash. He's an author for IPCC, and he's a scientist basically. And we were hosting him for a Earth Day event, and he was talking about Kolkata's vulnerability, and he mentioned that the need for a climate action plan for the city of Kolkata. And this was last year, Earth Day 2022. And immediately we thought that this is some very important, and Kolkata doesn't have an action plan. So we started a petition, and we requested, addressed it to the mayor of the city to come up with a climate action plan for Kolkata. It was very heartening to see that the city, the mayor of Kolkata actually responded to that, and maybe they were already working on it, or maybe that is something which was an appeal that they really thought was important, and they announced that they will come up with a climate action plan. And on this World Environment Day, they actually released a note that within the next 6 months, Kolkata will have a climate action plan. I think why it is important is that climate action is required at so many levels, and there is so many stakeholders involved in this. If all of us are working in silos, we don't know where we are going. So once we have a roadmap set, when we have a scientific roadmap set as to what we needs to be done, what needs to be achieved, we have timelines set. There's more accountability, there's more transparency, and there is more kind of a synchronization of efforts as to there's clarity on what civil society needs to do, what corporates need to do, what policymakers to do within the policymakers, which department needs to do what. I think that is very, very helpful with a climate action plan. So I'm really looking forward to the draft of climate action plan. I hope the government goes through a proper consulting process. All the stakeholders are involved. We have a comprehensive action plan, and doesn't stay as a plan. It has backed with resources, and very right people are assigned who are passionate about it to drive that action, because we don't have choice, right? So yeah, I'm really excited about that, and very thankful to the mayor of Kolkata for coming up with the climate action plan. I think this is a very progressive step forward towards climate action.
Right. And we have, honestly, people who stay in Kolkata, we always joke about how Kolkata or Bengal has always been last in everything, has always been lagging, has always been backward and very lazy as a city. So, what do you think is the progress of the city in terms of organizations or individuals working towards climate change or working in the environment space? In the past years, have you seen any growth in the level of participation or in the level of awareness that people have in the city?
I think definitely the awareness levels are growing. It's not just in Kolkata, but across. People are seeing that, because it's not because someone is telling them, because they are facing the brunt of climate change, I think. And once they experience that, they're getting aware. But I think a lot of people still don't know how they can act. And most of the actions for climate change have to have enough motivation for people to make behavioral changes within themselves at an individual level, which has always been a challenge, right? So I think that is a point where we are right now, where we need to also structure our policies such that so there is some disincentives for people to not do certain things, and also some incentives for people to perform certain positive actions. I think that will really drive a lot of this climate action that needs to be done. And I hope that the policy also, the climate action plan also considers that. You mentioned about the mission life. I think that is a beautiful mission that has been designed. And if the leader of a country of 1.4 billion people is telling that climate change needs to become a dinner table conversation, I think that speaks a volume about what climate crisis is, and how significant it is, and how much thought is there at the top level to drive this. So I think that is definitely a progressive thing. In Bengal also, the government has been doing a lot of action, but as I say, it's probably not enough, or maybe because some of the data that I study, I feel this is not enough, and definitely the data speaks that it is not enough, right? So that needs to be upscaled. The masses need to be part of this, and all the tools and technology we require is available right now. So we definitely have to create more will and more action on the ground.
Right. And like we all know that change cannot happen until and unless everyone or most of us participate in the action. So, what do you think individuals can do, or things that they can take up in order to contribute to this change?
So one of the things I believe, it's a joke also. I say that a lot of people, when they ask me what can I do for climate change, I say that you don't need to do anything more. You need to do less of what you're doing. And I think that starts with a little bit of...
This reminds me of the line that the most sustainable product that is there available is the one that you did not buy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think sustainability is quite simple as this thing. If you start with a broader this thing about rather me telling you 10 things to do, if you look at your daily life and see some of the things or some of the actions which you probably don't need, but it has just happened because of consumerism, because of the mindset, and because of just catching up with your peers, that you follow that, but something you don't need. Can you eliminate that? And this thing, simple things like, maybe suppose you live very close to your house or somewhere, and you absolutely don't need a car, but you have it because all your circle has it, and you have to maintain a certain status with this thing, that you have to drive a certain car and go. I think we have to make that thing cooler, that if you're not coming in a car is more cooler for a person, it's more attractive. I think that as a status has to become a thing, maybe that will drive more action. I think that is also something which needs to drive, and that's happening in pieces between in the younger generation. I think if that happens, maybe that will translate into better climate action. So what I want to say is that being more mindful itself will improve the quality of your life, and it also will make you more sustainable in your actions.
Right. And we have also been seeing so much of your campaign of each one plant one. It is such a beautiful campaign. And I think for the next 75 days or till Independence Day, you are planting trees every day. So if you could just tell us about that campaign of yours.
Yeah, so this happened after Amphan, when we saw, I went out after Amphan and I saw that how so many trees were fallen. And that day, there was a media person and asked me to share a comment on that. I said that these are green corpse, because that's how I felt. It was so many, this thing. And we were thinking then what we can do. And without any technical understanding, without any understanding, we started replanting these trees. And we thought that if we go with all the scientific thing, maybe we will have better survival rate, but we didn't have the resource or time to waste. We started planting trees, and some of them, not most of them, survived, but some of them they survived, and that was a great question. Now when we move around, we see some of those trees which have again grown their canopy. It feels such a great motivator. Now when the heat wave were there, we were already doing one plant one after that, and we were doing every Sunday drives, and we used to use this drive for people to come closer to nature within the urban city. So we used to invite people to come and celebrate their birthdays, we can celebrate their special days, or just come and touch the mud, because we're so disconnected now. And those drives were doing well. It was like a fun activity every Sunday morning we used to do. We go to breakfast, and it was fun. When the heat wave thing was happening, we thought that this is really serious. How can we do something? And the data says that 30% of green cover is gone. So we thought that we will just invite people anywhere they have space. They can call us, and we will go and plant trees, because challenge was finding space for plantation. So then people started responding. They started inviting us to their community complexes, to their factories, to their schools, institutions, to their locality, and we started planting trees. So this is a model we follow. Anywhere anyone has space within the city or around the city, they can invite us. They can let us know what kind of trees they want. We will go and plant. There's no cost involved for the host organization, and it is a citizen movement, as we call it. So people do come and support our drives with donations. In fact, there are two concepts we created. One is SIP, which is systematic investment in planet, and the idea is similar to an SIP, where you have a regular investment going into the planet, where everyone can commit as per their own capacity, one tree a year or one tree a month, one tree a day, one tree a minute, whatever their capacity is, and you help make the city greener. And the other concept is ULIP, which is for business entities to link one of their business metric with planting trees. So we say that if you're manufacturing pens, say for every 10,000 pens manufactured, you plant one tree. Or for a hospital organization, it could be planting trees for every 5 rooms booked for vesting. So it can be any business metric. You measure it, you voluntarily contribute, and we keep planting trees. So that way we keep getting funds, we have a pool created, and we keep planting trees anywhere and everywhere we find spaces. So it's a way of making the planet greener as you also grow.
Wow, I think that is a beautiful concept. Both of these at individual level and at corporate level, both options that have been provided. And I think for anyone to contribute one tree a year or a month is a very, very affordable solution. And for corporates also to kind of link their revenue or their production with planting trees is, I think, something which it's not exactly a cost to them. It's quite minimal for companies, and also it helps them get that, I wouldn't say that green profile as much, but yes, consumers have started noticing now what businesses are doing in the green space. So I'm sure in some way or the other, it will convert to
Absolutely.
profit.
I think citizens respond very positively.
Yes.
One of the citizens was attending a inauguration ceremony of a new store for his friend. And what he said is that he called up and he said, I don't want to take any gift for him. Can you plant X number of trees for them and give me a certificate that I'll give them? And he actually did that. He made us plant trees for that thing. And that was his way of wishing good luck to that business enterprise. And I think that's beautiful. And there's one like thing that I heard in spirituality also. If you're going to do any good, any important task, whether in interview, job, anything that you're going, if you do something for nature, it could be just planting a tree or watering a plant or releasing a bird or anything which is nature centric, it actually helps you get good energies and which can actually improve your output in this thing. So I think, and I believe in these things. And I think even if these things are not very scientific, I think this is the time we need to make them popular if it can help accelerate climate action.
डेफिनेटली, अगर दही शक्कर खाने को हम बोल सकते हैं गुड लक, तो प्लांट में पानी डालने को why not?
Absolutely. हाँ, तो हम यही बोलते हैं कि आप बर्थडेज पे केक काटना एक रिचुअल बन गया, जैसे भी बना अब वो भी करो, साथ में प्लांट भी करो हमारे साथ आकर. So that also becomes a way of celebrating this thing. And planting trees is such an happy process. Yes. So why not do these things?
Like you mentioned that how corporates are, taking up this program, they are planting trees. But we've also been noticing that what happens with companies generally is in their functions, in their corporate events, they'll have these small, 100 milliliter plastic bottle, and they will have all the plastic collaterals that they can possibly procure. Even we saw, let's say for the G20 summits, how plastic flexes were all over the roads when the discussion was about how to reduce plastic waste. So how do you think these contradictory ways of being can, exist together? Is it because of lack of understanding that a plastic flex or a plastic bottle is causing more harm than you are trying to solve? Or is it because it's just a greenwashing process and they don't really care genuinely about it? They're just doing it to show to the consumers that yes, we are doing something about it.
So yeah, I think part of it is definitely greenwashing, where there are organizations that they understand they are doing wrong, but I think most of the organizations don't understand this thing. The intent is not the problem. I think a lot of events being organized for sustainability and all, a lot of organizations who do not have a whole understanding of sustainability, they do things with good intentions, but maybe what needs to be done more is to create alternatives and solutions which are easy available for that. So for people, some of them don't understand that what will we do without plastic bottles, this thing. There are hotels and restaurants which have now adopted things for sustainability. I think that's where also pressure needs to be created for them. So once you put certain protocols as this thing, then these small things which maybe you don't even think and it gets missed out in your entire planning will not happen. So we are actually working on designing a circularity charter for institutions where we will put in some of these things, where we work collaboratively with an institution to design a circularity charter. And when you put this into the policy that when you're organizing an event, you don't need disposables and how you will do it is already set, then there's no way you will end up doing that. Right. So I think this is where policies or processes help, So I think that is what is required right now. And I hope more organizations and institutions will start doing that. And the other way is that, of course, some of these things getting banned. Some states have actually banned bottles less than 300 ml or something. So I think that also is helpful.
Right. And what is your opinion on banning things, since you mentioned that? Because I remember last year, July, Bengal had banned plastic bags. But we all know that it did not really work out. So what is your view on that? How is it enough to just ban a product? What are the steps that need to be taken after banning a product? What is the way of executing that ban?
Yeah, so I think that's ban 2nd of July, very close to what we are right now. The ban was announced on certain single-use items nationally, and So what is important? Bans are very important, I think, because the items which were banned were low utility plastic, single use item plastic items which do not really affect a lot of processes, right? What needs to be done is proper implementation of those bans. Why would a city like Indore be able to do more on cleaning while a city like Kolkata cannot do that? I think that's where authorities have a greater role to play, and they have the role and they have the mandate to create that consumer awareness and create more stricter laws. If there are more fines, this will happen. I was just reading yesterday that Kolkata Municipal Corporation has now started an initiative where if you see a garbage pile around your house in this thing, you can just click a photo and send it to them WhatsApp, and they will take action. So I think these are good initiatives where citizens can be engaged and they can respond. So I think it's a citizen-state partnership that needs to evolve more for climate action and environmental actions to become more positive. With the ban also, if there is little bit support from the public, I think government will have no problem doing that, because if you are not carrying a plastic bag, cloth bag to the market, you will need something to carry it back, and the alternative that is available is probably more expensive. It's not feasible for some of them. So that's where I think there's a mix of intent which needs to be there from the public. You can't just keep screaming that government is not doing enough. If they start fining, you will probably start complaining again, right? So I think that is the where we have to look at the middle part, where government has done a little bit of their part, you take a little bit of your part, and that's where things will work.
Right. And we have also recently started this circularity on wheels campaign. Earth Day and Hulladek has done this together. Many other waste management companies have also joined hands. So what is the agenda behind this campaign? Why are we doing it? And what is the goal that we are expecting out of it?
So it's been a long time that we talk about waste issues in the city of Kolkata, and any forum that you go to in Kolkata, waste always appears as a major city issue which everyone is concerned about. And actually, the waste management scenario in Kolkata is pretty bad right now. And I particularly think that waste management needs to evolve to a more circularity, as I read about it, because if you just keep managing waste better, you still have the same amount of resource consumption happening, and probably it will increase more, right? And that will not help reduce emissions or have a positive impact on climate. So what is the win-win situation is that we create more circular processes which can actually help reduce the waste, but also reduce extraction of new materials, which is very, very important to fight climate change. That's why I thought that circularity is a beautiful solution as a design. And when you read about it across the world, you will find beautiful innovations, beautiful implementations of circularity happening. So I thought that Kolkata is such a stage where we can actually leapfrog from better waste management directly to making more circular design. And the vision with that is to how can we make our city more circular. And so that's the broader vision. And then we thought that what can we start with as of now? And we thought that dry waste is something which is more easy to target. And so we partnered with organizations like yourself, who has expertise in management of certain type of materials. And we launched this vehicle, which now is available for anyone to request a pickup. And so this is also a way of making climate action simpler for people, right? We keep telling what can citizens do. Citizens now just have to text and call, right? And they can get their e-waste or old clothes managed sustainably. And applying the concept of circularity, when we collect anything, we further segregate it, and whatever is working condition is actually donated to someone in need, which can be used, and the life time of that product can be extended. And if it is not, then it is sustainably managed by a recycling unit like yours, right? So I think this is where one opportunity, but we need to move to other materials. Like we plan to add reused cooking oil, we plan to add medicines, and there are other materials that is in the process. And we also want to move into wet waste at some point of time. So this model of where we can amplify and bring together organizations with certain expertise to connect them with citizen is what really we want to plug in. And I hope the response has been very positive, as you also know. We hope to scale it further and see how we can make our city more circular we also plan, if there is resource available, to set up circularity lab for the city of Kolkata, where we set up as an excellent center for circular solutions, because there is so much innovation scope which is available. How can a waste from a certain industry become a resource to other? So this is what really we want to do. There's a lot of things we want to do with this thing, and I hope people will join and they will take up roles within the organization.
Right. Ajay, there is also a lot of talk about how extracting resources from an existing product and then making something out of it is far more energy conducive than making something out of virgin resources, right? So, what is it, a myth? Is it a reality? Which is the simpler way and which is the more economically as well as environmentally conducive way?
Yeah, sometimes it is very difficult to account the exact cost to the environment for a certain process. For example, sometimes if you're extracting a certain material, you're mining, there's so many things which are happening in the background of that being transported. There is not just environmental costs, there are some social costs related to that. So sometimes there might be a few examples where you see ultimately maybe recovering a material and designing a project maybe cost this thing, but I think in most of the cases it will be making more sense to utilize what has already been extracted and make something out of it. Of course, if you're creating something which is of utility, it's not. Sometimes we do create products which are just not required, and they somehow just look good, but no one to buy, right? That becomes a problem. It's not that the intent is wrong again, but they are trying to do something positive. But if we can create something which would otherwise also sell, it should not sell just because it is made out of waste or recycle. It should sell as a product, and then if it is there, that's an added benefit to that. I think that's very important. Consumers will not buy something which is of substandard only because it is recycled. That if they buy also, it will be a small percentage. It will not scale up.
And it will only have a novelty value. They're doing it once, they're doing it to show their circle that yes, I am into sustainable products, but it will never scale up. Right. Ajay, if you were made the Prime Minister of the country for a day, what are the 5 policy decisions that you would pass for the environment?
I think that's a big role. I think the person currently is doing a fairly good job with the mission life, this thing. But yeah, I think definitely I would organize a very strong training for each and every person working in across sector on sustainability. So to make people understand the seriousness of climate change and become more sustainable, and of course design and come up with very concrete action plans for each of the government major departments of sustainability which is there, so that we have a roadmap set for sustainability for a long term. Then of course work with the major stakeholders in the country, because we have so much less time available. Work with the major stakeholders, the large corporates and everything, and come up with a comprehensive plan, and what hear them also, what kind of policies can help accelerate climate action, what is the things we need to eliminate, those kind of actions need to be done. And I think we will definitely need to have a very strong mission kind of thing to restore our natural resources, which is our rivers, our forests, and everything. And that will be non-negotiable. That has to be non-negotiable. We cannot continue to keep throwing waste in the Ganga and come up with a Ganga action plan, right? Because that will never happen. Rivers are moving water, if you don't throw any garbage, it will be clean on its own. So we don't really need to clean Ganga. We just need to stop dirtying it, right? I think that's very important as a concept to understand, to protect our forests and everything, right? So I think these are some of the things that I can think of right now. Some of the things will be non-negotiable. Some has to be in middle part, because we are also a developing country. We need to understand that some of our social needs are more important. So that is where adaptability and action needs to be done. And third is where we need to step up and create an ecosystem where climate action, more startups coming into climate action, more people thinking of policies and everything with a climate mindset. That's where the sustainability training on each and every individual and leaders can be done. So we need a bunch of leaders, this thing. And together, if we are able to do this, India would not just do well for the nation, but I think it will thrive climate actions globally, which it is already doing. And I think it's a great potential. India needs to show the way to the world.
Right. Ajay, being in the environment space, being in the sustainability space myself, I find myself sometimes very depressed would be a very strong word, but very sad and very low about how, however much you do, it's like a black hole. It just keeps sucking you in. There's never enough. And when you see that there are not enough people doing it, or when you're doing something and it's being undone completely by opposite actions, then sometimes you just feel like giving up and you're just like, what the hell am I doing all this for? What is it leading to? Is it helping also or not? So how do you keep yourself motivated? How do you give yourself hope that no, this is going to be worth it, this is going to make a change?
Yeah, I think what you said is correct. As per you keep seeing this data and says that probably you're too late, or probably anything that you do will not make a change, or whatever you're doing is too insignificant. But there is other side of it which says that it is more important for you to do what you're doing and do it with greater fiercity, because that's required, because you're seeing that it's not enough. So I think it helps stretch beyond limits also. And at certain point, you need to understand that there's this much you can do, and you need to continue doing your path and doing what you want to do. What has worked for me also is that recently I got an opportunity to be part of the World Economic Forum's 1T.org initiative, and that is a huge initiative of 1 trillion trees. In India, the target is 10 billion trees. I think being part of that really gives me a little this thing that I'm playing a role into something that uses that. Also working with people like Professor Solanki, who is working at such a huge level to build an environmental movement. That gives me a little bit of hope. Of course, Earth Day being such a big organization, the platform is so huge, and we see such amount of people mobilizing every year for this thing. It's growing everywhere. It also gives us hope. So there is a lot of positives also, and that's when you need to see the positive sides of things. You see more people taking climate action. There are more people who are aware. There are more policies which are climate friendly. Things like Mayor announcing the climate action plan for Kolkata. So these are things that are positives that we try to pick and continue doing what that. And action always keeps you positive. So I think that's what I believe in. So this plantation drives that I do in the morning and everything which is action oriented and just not talk will keep you positive, I think.
Right. And Ajay, we have always seen you, either you are planting trees, or you're talking at hubs, or you are teaching something, or sometimes, most of the times, you're helping us out with our problems. So when exactly do you get time for your personal life, if I might ask, or for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones? Because most of the time we see you spending time with the environment or with initiatives for the climate.
First of all, I don't see there is a trade-off, because it is something I chose to do and I really enjoy doing. And if you see that when I'm working with you also, you are like my friends. I enjoy working with you. It's not a professional relationship that I have with any of these people. So similarly, I have so many groups, and everyone I enjoy. I actually chill with a lot of people also. We meet like not in offices but in cafes also, and that is one area of space. My family is a very big supporter of what I do. They really believe and support me into my work, so that is very important, to have a peaceful environment within the home. Otherwise it becomes very difficult to work with. So definitely that support is there. And so that is there, of course. And sometimes we get to travel to places which are there. So there are a lot of perks of being an environmentalist. Also, we try to go to places which are so pristine in nature, whether it's Sundarbans, whether it is to go into Kashmir, go to forest areas, go to beach areas, or wherever, right? So those are areas which you don't go as a touristy mindset, but they're so serene, so beautiful as this thing. So I think those are also perks that we get, and it also helps keep recharging ourselves. So I don't see any trade-off. I really enjoy what I this thing. So it's difficult to segregate for me what is my personal space or what is my workspace, because I don't see it as work. So it's a positive thing also. I don't lose energy, right?
Right. Like they say, if you enjoy your work, it's no longer work. It's just fun. And Ajay, I think you should definitely change your designation from climate change director to a networker. because we've always known you as someone who connects people in the environment space ki iska number le lo, isse baat kar lo, isse help mil jayega, I'll share this contact, I'll make you guys meet, I'll arrange for a meeting. So an environment space in general is very, I think, I wouldn't say low on competition, but actually there is no competition, because I've always seen people being so helpful, be it with contacts, be it with funds, be it with services, like with physical services being there, just attending events. What is your view on that? How fulfilling that feels? How do you feel about that?
So it's beautiful, this is only one sector probably where actually there is no idea of competition. Why I'll say that is that if you suppose start a company with an intent to solve a problem, if there are 5 more companies coming up, you solve the first problem 5 times faster, right? So and these are problems that is so huge. If you want to commit to environmental sustainability, you need to always keep the cause before the organization and this thing. And there, as you said, there are very few stakeholders right now, or there are not enough, I would say, who are working in this field. So we need to work together. That is fundamental. So it's like saying that if I get some people to do that task, I feel a sense of this thing is that things are moving forward. And as you said, that there's not enough action happening. When you know there is something happening, irrespective of who is doing it and who is getting the credit of these things, I think somehow it has helped me move beyond that, and I can see that fulfillment of anything which is positive happening. So I always believe that every young person who's coming this thing, I try to give them ideas as to what they can do, help them get started also, and lead anything that they can do. There's so many ideas that I may not be able to take up. So I'm happy to actually help anyone who is willing to take up anything, who is committed, back it with my capacity of resources to take up anything. It's for the city and the environment.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Ajay, for always inspiring us with all your actions and all your plans. And I hope that together we can, I wouldn't say solve the problem, but inch towards it, move towards it, and try to make a better space out of the environment sector in Kolkata, at least, if not globally. And thank you so much for being with us today, for being on We the People. And we'll be back with you with another guest in the environment space on We the People. Thank you so much.